the shutdown has lasted more than 40 days. Why did this particular standoff drag on so long?
Well, again, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today.
Always a
And
pleasure.
yes, we are entering into day 42 of a time where this again, it's a partial government shutdown. Not everything is shut down, but it's enough that it's causing extreme pain for many everyday Americans,
Hmm.
including our air traffic controllers, TSA agents, and other people that rely on government services. I'm with you today from Virginia. We have Virginia and Maryland, which have tens of thousands of government employees on either side of Washington D.C. Not to mention the other government employees that are throughout the country that have been suffering for more than a month. And when you're talking about going without a paycheck for more than a month and still expecting to show up to work, it can be incredibly frustrating. It can also be incredibly difficult to put gas in your car, to get childcare, or to buy groceries.
Yes.
And so the fact of the matter is that this was an unnecessary exercise in just causing extreme pain to the American people in an effort to get what the Democrats wanted and keeping the government closed to do so. And it's a situation where if they had been able to get away with this,
Hmm.
if the Republicans had somehow caved into doing this, it would not stop this from happening again from either side or either party to
Hmm.
one day decide, well, you know what, if I can't get everything I want, regardless of the amount of political power I have, I am going to shut the government down and hold the American people hostage over this.
Hmm.
It's not okay to do that. And the Democrats have learned that lesson the hard way. And now they're going to have to deal with the extreme progressive, the extreme liberal part of their party, the Mondamis of the world, the Democrat socialists and the communists that are taking over the Democratic Party.
Okay, so the Senate's 60 to 40 vote marks a turning point. So what political calculations led some Democrats to cross the aisle?
Well, again, the ones that we saw that came over, I'm thinking the ones that are a little less threatened by opponents from the left.
Hmm.
We saw Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia come over. Again, Virginia is incredibly reliable on the federal government, and Tim Kaine is one that surely understood that Virginians are certainly hurting in this. Again, we saw John Fetterman from New Jersey, who was from the very beginning a Democrat who was not about to allow this hostage taking of the American people, and to show that indeed that there are ways to do these things. There are ways and times and places to negotiate, but shutting down the government for issues that are unrelated to the processes of running the government is just simply unacceptable.
Yes. So let's talk about the deal's substance. What exactly does it fund and for how long?
So it looks right now. The what has passed the Senate again, and what they were debating before was going to run out at the end of November. But the fact
Hmm.
that they spent 40 days to negotiate it, even if they had been able to pass what the House had passed before, we would have been here at the same place probably 2 weeks later.
Hmm.
But the new agreements will extend funding until a little bit after January for some processes, for some spending bills, and we'll have to revisit that back in January. But in the meantime, the Republicans have agreed to hold some of these votes separate from keeping the government open, which is entirely appropriate. If they want to do a vote on health care, if they want to do a vote on subsidies and other items, doing so separate from keeping the government operations going will happen. And I think that that's an honest and right thing to do, to
Hmm.
allow to have these issues brought up. So they'll be brought up. Whether they pass or they fail will remain to be seen.
Hmm.
But the government will be at least open to do this. And, the air traffic controllers will be able to be paid. The TSA
Yes.
agents will be able to be paid. But we have to make sure that the Congress gets back to vote on this. And I think probably by this time next week, we'll see a bill on the president's desk to reopen things.
Okay. Mr. Renee, the bill guarantees retroactive pay and holds layoffs. So how significant is that for the federal workforce and public sentiment?
Well, it means, I mean, this is exactly what is required by law. The fact is these government workers, it was by no fault of their own that they were furloughed or that they had to not be able to work if funding for the government had run out. And
Mm.
in a lot of these cases, we saw government workers that still had to show up to work and not be paid. And that's why we're seeing the chaos for traveling right now, where
Mm.
you've got air traffic controllers and TSA agents who've now missed two paychecks. We've seen members of the military that are going to be missing paychecks, not only in the United States, but including our military who are serving overseas.
Mm.
Again, this is again completely unacceptable. We've seen, benefits for those that have food assistance to get groceries and food. That was threatened to be cut off as well.
Mm.
So again, these types of things are again incredibly painful for the
Yes.
American people. But again, these government workers, again, they are caught in the middle of this, and you can't expect someone to show up for work and still work and not get paid
Getting paid,
for
yeah.
yeah. And the other thing is that Trump has alluded that some of these air traffic controllers that were staying in and working hard and even overtaking some additional shifts by working more than they would have normally to cover up the shortfalls. They're going to try to find some bonuses for those. It sounds like that will show that the appreciation of not only the political leaders, but the American people are right there with them too.
Okay. Well, President Donald Trump voiced strong support. So, how does this shift his standing after weeks of criticism over the shutdown's impact?
That really depends a lot on where you are ideologically to start with. The Republicans will call it the Schumer shutdown. The Democrats will call it the Trump shutdown, and everyone just wants to point fingers at one another. And so for the hardcore partisans that are out there, the people that are extremely supportive of one side or another, or one ideology or another, they'll certainly blame each other for what has happened here. But what it comes down to, though, is the American people, the ones that are just trying to focus on making sure that their families are fed, that their children are cared for, and they can have gas in their car and pay their
Exactly.
bills on time.
Mm.
They're going to point fingers at all of Washington, at all these politicians, to say we
Exactly.
need to figure out this plan, and you got to work together, or else we're going to have to send other people to Washington. And at the end of the day, I do think that the Republicans probably get an edge out over this. We did see a lot of more progressive candidates win in these last elections here a few weeks ago, but I do think that overall, Donald Trump and the Republicans have said over and over that they want to make the government get back open again, and it was the Democrats who are really stalling that process.
Well, speaking of the Democrats, some progressive Democrats have denounced the deal as a surrender. What risks does this pose for party unity heading into 2026?
The Democrat Party is going to face an identity crisis like no other.
Mm.
What we saw happen in New York with the Democratic Socialists and Mondami. We've seen Ocasio-Cortez that's likely to give a challenge to Chuck Schumer, the Senate leader for the Democrats. The progressive Democrats, the extreme left wing of the party, is going to try to take over, and the more moderate, the more reasonable voices in that party are quickly losing their status. They're quickly losing the ability to influence policy and politics, and so I think we're going to see a widening of the differences between Republicans and Democrats, and so these the centrists, those people that are usually the ones to go and compromise, are going to become fewer and fewer when you're looking at the left side of the spectrum, and instead we're going to see a much more aggressive, a much more dominant progressive side of the party that is probably going to start to win elections. But unfortunately, the governing from that side is going to be much, much, much more difficult. So I think that we're going to see the Democrats having a very difficult time in the short term and the longer term, too. They're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do.